Jamin AI. Jamin AI.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty fascinating.
Yeah, we're looking at that space where dreams, maybe intuition, and possibly even, well, spiritual experiences might connect.
Exactly. And this is really geared towards you, especially if you love, grabbing knowledge quickly and having those moments where things just click. Those aha moments.
Definitely. And the big question we're circling around is, can we actually get insights, maybe even some guidance from our dreams?
Specifically from those really quick flashes, the bits that often just vanish when we wake up.
That's the idea. And our source for this is, well, it's pretty specific. A blog post.
Right. From April 7th, 2025. It's called Prima Facie, When the Holy Spirit Interrupts a Normal Dream.
It's on a blog called The Exorcist Bestiary, which sounds intense, but the post itself is a personal story.
A first-hand account, yeah. Looking at exactly this kind of fleeting dream moment, but from a Christian perspective.
So our mission today really is to unpack what the author went through
Understand their experience, pull out the main takeaways.
and maybe give you a way to think about your own dreams, without prescribing anything. Just food for thought.
Okay, let's dive into the actual dream the author describes.
Right. So the author says they were just having a, regular brain processing kind of dream.
Nothing overtly spiritual or symbolic, it sounds like. Pretty mundane stuff.
Until this one thing pops up. A guitar case.
Okay. And on the guitar case, there's a sticker.
Yeah, a sticker with just 2 words on it in Latin. Prima facie.
Prima facie, not exactly everyday language.
Not at all. And that's what caught the author's attention, apparently. It felt significant somehow, not just random dream clutter.
Oh, what do they do?
Well, this feeling was strong enough that they actually woke up, grabbed their phone, and Googled it,
Okay, and the meaning?
trusting first impressions.
Sure.
Or at first sight.
Wow. Okay, so immediately that sparks a question, right?
Exactly. Was this just my brain pulling a random Latin phrase at us somewhere, or was it something else?
Like a nudge, a hint. The author even wondered if it was, spiritual.
And importantly, they didn't just dismiss it. They made a quick note on their phone.
Good call.
Wow.
Because these things fade so fast.
Totally. And then the story jumps forward a bit.
Right, to a completely different situation. The author is involved in leading someone through what they call a deliverance session.
Yeah. And based on their experience or intuition, the author had this initial feeling.
A first impression, you might say.
Exactly. A prima facie sense, perhaps, that the person they were working with might still be dealing with some issues, some demons in the context of the blog.
Even though the person wasn't showing obvious signs or saying anything.
Right. That was the author's initial take, just a gut feeling.
Okay, so then what happened in the session?
Well, at one point, the person being helped was encouraged to ask, sort of directly, ask the Holy Spirit if there were still demons present.
To direct a question.
And the answer they reported receiving back was, well, it's pretty specific.
What was it?
They said they heard, "I gave Jamin 2 words in a dream." Jamin being the author's name.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So the person in the session gets a message that directly references the author's dream.
The exact dream, the 2 words, Prima Facie.
That's quite a connection. The author must have immediately thought back to that guitar case.
Instantly. That's the aha moment right there. The link between the strange dream detail and this very real present situation.
So how did the author interpret the guitar case then, in light of this?
Well, they thought about the image itself. Prima facie. What is a guitar case?
It's a case for a guitar. It looks exactly like what it is.
Precisely. It's exactly what it looks like. And they drew a parallel to the deliverance situation. Meaning the initial impression, the prima facie feeling that the person was still dealing with something.
Was correct. It was what it looked like, despite the lack of overt signs.
That's how the author interpreted the message, yes. The dream phrase confirmed their initial intuition about the situation.
Okay, this adds a whole new layer to how we might think about dreams.
It really does. The author mentions having had other dreams they felt were spiritual before. But this was different.
How so?
Usually, maybe the whole dream felt symbolic or carried a clear narrative, but this was just a normal dream.
With one tiny, seemingly random, but ultimately significant detail embedded within it.
Exactly. A fleeting moment. And this led the author to a really interesting insight.
Which was?
They drew an analogy between waking life and dream life.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
Think about when you're awake. Sometimes a thought just pops into your head, right? Maybe feels like a little nudge, an intuition, maybe even something spiritual for some people. It's quick, fleeting, happens amidst all the other mental noise.
Yeah, that happens.
So the author suggests maybe the same thing can happen in our dreams. Maybe amidst the normal dream processing, these little sparks of insight, these fleeting spiritual moments can occur.
Ah, I see. So not the whole dream is a message, but a tiny part of it might be.
That's the idea. And the big takeaway, the advice really is not to just brush these off.
Don't dismiss those weird little moments, the non sequiturs in your dreams.
Right. Because they might actually mean something. The author isn't saying they always do, but they could.
So what's the practical step then? Analyze everything.
Not necessarily analyze immediately. The suggestion was simpler. Write them down.
Just capture them, like the author did with Prima Facie on their phone.
Exactly. Jot down that weird word, that strange image, that fleeting feeling. Don't worry about interpreting it right away. Just collect it.
For later discernment, as they put it, like gathering potential clues without knowing the whole mystery yet.
A really good way to put it. Collect the puzzle pieces.
It helps to know a little about the source, too. This blog, The Exorcist's Bestiary.
Yeah. The name is striking. But the author's goal seems to be making concepts like exorcism and inner healing less scary, more understandable.
Using humor, theology, personal stories, focusing on practical inner healing connected to, well, the Holy Spirit in their framework.
And the author, Jamin Bradley, they're clearly keen on sharing this perspective widely.
Yeah, you mentioned they're on YouTube, Spotify, social media.
Right, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So it's not just a niche blog. They're actively engaging a broader audience with these ideas.
Okay, so let's connect this back to you, the listener, especially thinking about your interest in efficient learning and those aha moments.
This whole account kind of suggests a potentially overlooked channel for insight, doesn't it?
Paying attention to these brief, weird moments in dreams. It could be a fast track almost, some kind of personal understanding.
Perhaps tapping into intuition or subconscious processing in a different way. The author's aha moment was pretty powerful, connecting that dream fragment to the real-world situation.
That's a prime example of the kind of sudden clarity that can be so satisfying, finding a connection you didn't see before.
It really is. Seeing how that seemingly random phrase suddenly unlocked an understanding of the deliverance session. It underscores how these things we might ignore can actually hold significance.
It definitely makes you think. Are there little fragments like that in my own experience, waking or dreaming, that I've just, dismissed?
And it's perfectly okay, of course, if you're listening to this and thinking, I don't know about this.
Absolutely. Skepticism is healthy. We're presenting this as one person's experience and interpretation.
It's not about demanding belief, more about offering it as, well, an interesting perspective on dreams. A way to cultivate maybe a bit more curiosity about your own inner world.
Openness to possibility, perhaps.
Exactly. So, wrapping up our deep dive here, the core thing we've explored through this Prima Facie story is this idea.
That really meaningful insights might actually pop up in very small, unexpected ways within our ordinary dreams.
Yeah, these brief moments could be little signals, potential pathways to understanding that we often just, sleep through or forget immediately.
It suggests a hidden layer, almost, to our dream life.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to maybe carry away from this.
Considering the author's experience with Prima Facie, what seemingly tiny, insignificant moments from your own recent dreams might actually be worth revisiting.
Was there a weird word, a strange image out of context, a feeling that seemed oddly specific?
Things you probably just wrote off as just a dream. Could any of those, if you looked again with a bit of curiosity, hold a different kind of meaning?
Maybe a subtle message, or just an interesting reflection from your subconscious waiting for second look. Something to ponder.
Jamin AI.